Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we are talking all about the fastest way to reverse fatty liver disease naturally. And we are taking a look at a YouTube video by Dr. Sten Ekberg.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. I was shocked to learn that this actually affects billions of people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, globally.
Billions.
It's kind of alarming.
Yeah, that is.
And it's something we definitely need to understand.
Yeah, for sure. It really is like a silent epidemic. A lot of people don't even realize they have it.
Right.
Until it's, progressed to a more serious stage.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. So Dr. Ekberg, he breaks down fatty liver into two main types.
Okay.
Alcoholic and non-alcoholic.
Right.
So, we all know that excessive drinking is not good for your liver.
Right.
But the surprising part is that most cases today are actually non-alcoholic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and linked to things like poor diet lifestyle.
So this really challenges the stereotype that, only heavy drinkers are at risk.
Right.
It's a wake-up call for all of us to kind of pay attention to our liver health, no matter how much alcohol we do or don't drink.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he kind of describes it as like fatty liver is a spectrum.
Okay.
On one end, you have some fat in the liver, which he says might not be initially a huge issue.
Okay.
But then on the other end, you've got inflammation and damage, which can really be a slippery slope to more serious problems like cirrhosis or even liver cancer.
That's serious, yeah. So early detection is key, right?
Yeah.
If you catch it early on, then there's a much better chance of reversing the damage.
Right. And that's why we're doing this deep dive.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can figure out how do we catch this early and what can we do?
Absolutely.
And so he actually says that prolonged fasting could potentially cure fatty liver.
Wow.
But he's very clear. Like, you should never attempt that without medical supervision.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, it's powerful stuff.
It is powerful.
But you need to be careful.
Absolutely.
It's not like a DIY solution.
Right.
And so he recommends intermittent fasting as like a safer alternative.
Okay.
So he suggests different approaches like OMAD. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that.
42-hour fast or the 16.8 method.
Right. Those are all, those are popular.
Yeah. And the cool thing is he kind of encourages you to play around with different patterns to find what works best for your body.
That's a great advice. Yeah. That individuality is a recurring theme in his approach, I've noticed.
Right.
He really emphasizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. And I think that that's really important to remember. What works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
So it's all about figuring out, what's best for you. Speaking of finding what works, let's move on to lifestyle changes. First up, alcohol.
Okay.
No surprise here, but he really paints a stark picture of how damaging alcohol is to the liver.
Yeah, it's pretty unavoidable, right? Like, we know.
Right.
But he explains how it basically turns into fat in the liver.
Right.
Which, obviously contributes to the buildup we're trying to avoid.
Right.
It also depletes important nutrients like B vitamins, vitamin C, and glutathione.
Right.
All of which are really essential for the liver to be able to do its job.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.
It is.
So not only are you putting more fat in there,
right,
you're also, like, stripping it of what it needs to function.
Exactly, yeah.
And as if that wasn't bad enough, alcohol acts as a diuretic.
Oh, right.
Making you dehydrated.
Right.
And messing with your electrolytes.
Hello, hang moments.
Hello, exactly.
It's just like a cascade of negative effects.
Yeah.
It interferes with nutrient absorption, and it even increases iron absorption, which can create additional problems in the body.
So it's not just about the, calories in, calories out.
No, not at all.
It's like actively sabotaging your liver's ability to function.
Exactly.
So now on to another culprit. Sugar.
Okay. And
specifically, Dr. Ekberg singles out fructose as a major offender.
Interesting.
He actually compares the damaging effects of fructose on the liver to those of alcohol.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful comparison.
It is. It's easy to forget that sugar isn't just, empty calories.
Right.
It can have really serious long-term consequences.
For sure, yeah.
For our health.
So he explains that both fructose and alcohol can stress the liver out and deplete it of those essential nutrients that we were talking about. What's fascinating is he says that giving a child like sugary cereal with orange juice is essentially the same as giving them like a couple of shots of vodka.
Oh my gosh. That really puts things in perspective.
It does, doesn't it? It makes you realize how much sugar we're exposing ourselves and our kids to.
Right.
Often without even realizing it.
Right.
He argues that, many people misunderstand this concept of moderation. When it comes to sugar, he's really advocating for a drastic reduction.
Especially for people that are trying to reverse fatty liver.
Exactly. So it's not just about cutting back a little bit. It's about really making a significant shift in our relationship with sugar.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's not just about, having one less cookie. It's about really changing your mindset around it. And it's not just sugar that needs to go. He also recommends reducing overall carbohydrate intake.
Okay.
Especially refined grains.
So those simple carbs.
Right. And he explains how these carbs break down into glucose.
Right.
Which raises blood sugar levels.
Of course.
And can contribute to insulin resistance.
And when you combine a high sugar intake with a high carbohydrate intake.
Right.
It's like a double whammy.
A double whammy, yeah.
For your liver.
So the solution, he suggests focusing on high-fiber vegetables.
Okay.
As your primary source of carbs.
So it's not about eliminating carbs altogether.
Right.
It's about choosing the right kind.
Exactly, yeah. So what about fat? What about fat in the diet?
This is where it gets interesting. He actually emphasizes the importance of healthy fats in the diet.
Okay.
Especially when you're reducing those carbohydrates.
Okay.
He says they're essential for overall health.
Interesting.
And particularly helpful when you're trying to reverse fatty liver.
That goes against everything we've been taught about low-fat diets.
I know, right? It's interesting.
Yeah. So what kind of fats are we talking about here?
He recommends incorporating foods like avocados, nuts and seeds, wild-caught fish, grass-fed meat, pasture-raised eggs, and healthy oils.
Okay.
Things like extra virgin olive oil, grass-fed butter, coconut oil.
Okay. So it's not just, any fat. It's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. He even suggests choosing fatty cuts of meat when possible.
Okay.
And adding healthy cooking fats to leaner options.
Wow, that's like a shift in perspective for sure. It's about embracing healthy fats as part of a liver-friendly diet.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about something that I think we often overlook. Our toxic load.
Right.
He explains that environmental toxins can build up in the liver.
Okay.
And put a lot of stress on it.
That makes sense. We don't often think about that.
Right. It's not just about what we eat and drink. It's also about the things that we're exposed to
right.
in our everyday lives.
Absolutely.
So he encourages choosing organic foods as much as possible.
Makes sense.
Particularly produce on what's called a dirty dozen list.
Okay.
Which highlights fruits and vegetables with the highest pesticide residues.
Yeah, good reminder to be mindful of where our food comes from.
Right. What else can we do to kind of reduce our toxic load?
Well, he suggests using natural cleaning products.
Okay.
And personal care items.
Right.
To minimize exposure to harmful chemicals.
Right.
He also advises against storing food in plastic.
Okay.
Heating food in plastic.
Right.
And using cookware like Teflon, aluminum, and aluminum foil.
That's a lot to think about.
It is, but, even small changes in these areas can make a big difference over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's kind of a good point, right? It's like you don't have to do everything perfectly, but just being mindful of these things can make a big difference.
For sure.
And here's a really simple but powerful tip that he recommends. Invest in a water filter.
Yeah.
Just to reduce exposure to toxins in our drinking water.
It's such an easy step to take, but it can make a big impact on your overall health.
Right. I know for me, I was kind of surprised to learn how many contaminants can actually be found in our tap water.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So, this has been really eye-opening so far. Who knew there were so many things we could do to support our livers?
Yeah, a lot to think about.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll dive into exercise, supplements, and the fatty liver index.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about diet and, reducing those toxins. Now let's talk about exercise. Dr. Ekberg really emphasizes that both aerobic and anaerobic exercise can play a role in reversing fatty liver.
He's a big proponent of aerobic exercise because it burns fat efficiently.
Right.
And it's generally easier on the body.
Right.
Meaning you can do it for longer stretches.
Okay.
He recommends aiming for at least 30 minutes, but he also suggests if you can comfortably do more, go for it.
So it's not just about hitting a minimum.
Right.
It's about pushing your limits.
Yeah.
If you feel up to it.
Absolutely.
What about anaerobic exercise?
So while anaerobic exercise is beneficial, he points out that it can be a little more taxing on the body.
Okay.
And it uses a mix of fat and carbs for fuel.
Right.
So he suggests limiting it to maybe 1 or 2 sessions a week if you enjoy it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Don't want to overdo it.
Yeah.
He also talks about height or high-intensity interval training.
Right. So height is great for boosting metabolism and burning fat because it triggers the release of growth hormone. But He cautions against doing it too frequently because it can put a lot of stress on the body.
Right.
He advises keeping the total high-intensity, time-short, and limiting sessions to 2 or 3 times per week.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, right?
Yeah,
Between pushing yourself and allowing your body to recover.
exactly.
Now, let's move on to something I always find interesting. Liver-supporting foods and supplements.
So he's a firm believer in the power of nutrition to support liver health.
Mm-hmm.
And he highlights foods like leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
These are all packed with nutrients that help the liver function properly.
Right.
He also recommends incorporating omega-3 rich foods.
So those delicious salmon dinners are actually doing your liver a favor.
Exactly. And don't forget about seeds like flax, chia, and hemp.
Okay.
They're little nutritional powerhouses.
What about things like garlic and turmeric and ginger?
You're right. Those are on the list as well.
Those are all known for their health benefits, right?
They are. They have anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay.
And can help protect the liver from damage.
So it sounds like we should be stocking up on all these goodies.
Right.
What about supplements? Does he recommend those?
He does, especially if the liver is already under stress or in a toxic environment.
Okay.
He mentions vitamin E, fish oil, liver support formulas, and choline.
So specifically for vitamin E, he mentions one called Cataplex E.
Okay.
And then for fish oil, either super omega or cod liver oil.
Gotcha.
And for liver support formulas, standard process Livoplex.
Okay.
Choline, that's what I'm not so familiar with.
Choline's actually a nutrient that is crucial for liver function and fat metabolism.
Okay.
It's found in foods like eggs and liver,
Okay.
but a lot of people don't get enough from their diet alone.
So supplements can bridge that gap, but it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement regimen.
Absolutely. Supplements should really complement a healthy diet, not replace it.
Right, right. So it seems like his approach is all about combining these different strategies for the best results.
You got it.
He believes that making small changes in multiple areas of your life can really add up to big improvements in liver health.
And it's not about being perfect. It's just about making consistent progress.
Right. I mean, that's encouraging to hear.
Right.
That you don't have to completely overhaul your life overnight.
You don't.
You can start with small, manageable steps.
Exactly. And speaking of manageable steps, he introduces a tool called the Fatty Liver Index.
Okay.
It's a formula that helps predict the likelihood of having fatty liver disease.
Uh-huh.
And it's based on factors like your BMI, your waist circumference, blood triglyceride levels, and a liver enzyme called GGT.
GGT, that's another one we haven't really defined.
Right, so GGT stands for gamma-glutamyl transferase.
Wow.
It's an enzyme found mainly in the liver, and elevated levels can indicate liver damage.
So the fatty liver index takes all these factors into account to give you a better picture of your risk.
Right.
What are some of the key takeaways from this index?
So he highlights that BMI and waist circumference are particularly strong indicators.
Mm-hmm.
There's a significant link between a large waist circumference and fatty liver disease.
This kind of emphasizes that it's not just about overall weight, but also about where that weight is distributed.
Right.
Carrying excess weight around your midsection seems to be particularly problematic.
Right, exactly.
So while the fatty liver index is helpful,
Yeah.
it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Uh-huh.
It's always best to consult with a healthcare professional for a comprehensive evaluation and personalized guidance.
Right. So even though this index can give us some insight,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be used for self-diagnosis.
Right. It's not a substitute for professional medical advice.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Diet, lifestyle changes, exercise, and even a tool to assess our risk.
Yeah,
It's amazing how many things we can do to support our liver health naturally.
there really are.
What are some final thoughts that he kind of leaves us with?
He emphasizes that weight loss is often a natural outcome of implementing all these healthy lifestyle changes, but it's not the primary goal.
Right.
It's about addressing the root causes of fatty liver,
Mm-hmm.
which are, often a combination of diet and lifestyle factors.
So it's not just about fitting into those skinny jeans.
Right.
It's about making sustainable changes that support your overall well-being.
Exactly. It's about, shifting your mindset from simply trying to lose weight
Right.
to adopting a healthier lifestyle
Yeah.
that benefits your liver and your overall health.
That's a great way to put it. This deep dive has been packed with information. We've covered everything from intermittent fasting and dietary changes to reducing toxins and the importance of exercise. And we even learned about the fatty liver index. What stands out to you as like the most impactful takeaway?
For me, it's his analogy of fructose being as damaging to the liver as alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
He explains that fructose is metabolized in the liver similarly to alcohol,
Right.
leading to similar harmful effects like fat accumulation and inflammation. It's a stark reminder that we need to be mindful of our sugar intake, even if it's not coming from obvious sources like candy or soda.
That's a powerful point. It really highlights the hidden dangers of sugar lurking in so many processed foods and drinks. What about you? What resonated most with you?
I was really struck by the importance of personalized experimentation, especially with intermittent fasting.
Okay.
He encourages finding a fasting pattern that feels right for your body and your lifestyle. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And it highlights the individuality of our health journeys.
Yeah, I agree. It's empowering to know that we have the agency to experiment and find what works best for you. So if you're listening to this and feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all this information, remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Start with one small change that feels doable for you.
Maybe it's cutting out soda,
Right.
swapping your afternoon cookie for a handful of nuts,
Mm-hmm.
or just simply being more mindful of the ingredients in the foods you buy.
Right. Every step you take towards a healthier liver is a step towards a healthier you. And if you're feeling stuck or unsure where to begin, don't hesitate to reach out to a healthcare professional for personalized guidance.
Exactly. They can help you create a plan
Right.
that's tailored to your individual needs and goals.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. What small change from this deep dive feels most doable for you right now? And how could you make it part of your routine?
Ooh, that's a good question. Maybe try incorporating a 12-hour overnight fast into your schedule. Or swapping out one sugary drink for water each day.
Yeah,
Small steps lead to big changes over time.
absolutely. Remember, knowledge is power. And now you're armed with the information you need to take control of your liver health. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those livers happy and healthy. Until next time, happy diving.